The gentleman from Oregon is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Attorney General, for being here today. I would like to go back briefly to your remarks regarding before the Senate when you were confirmed and your promise regarding Mr. Weiss. Can you explain to us in a little more detail who you promised that you would keep Mr. Weiss on this case? To whom was that promise made?
Yeah, so a number of senators in my meetings with them asked me to make that promise. I think that was discussed in my interchange with a senator from Tennessee, I believe.
And did that promise that you made lead you to believe that even if that Mr. Weiss displayed a level of incompetence, that you would be precluded from asking him to step down or precluded from replacing him?
Look, when someone asks me to make this appointment, they didn't ask me depending upon what the outcome was. Mr. Weiss has made his appointment, decisions, and Mr. Weiss is an experienced federal prosecutor with extensive experience and with sufficient credibility to be appointed by President Trump. I just have no grounds for interfering here.
Right, so you haven't answered the question. The question was really what level of incompetence displayed by a prosecutor under your control would it take for you to make a change? But let's move on. The level of incompetence I'm referring to, I'll just read this to you. This is the same Weiss who headed an investigation that was trashed by whistleblowers who alleged that his investigation had been fixed from the outset. It's the same Weiss who ran an investigation in which agents were allegedly prevented from asking about Joe Biden, obstructed in their efforts to pursue questions, compromised by tip-offs to the Biden team on planned searches. It was the same Weiss who reportedly allowed the statute of limitations to run out on Hunter's major tax offenses, even though he had the option to extend it. It was the same Weiss who did not indict on major tax felonies and cut a plea deal that brushed aside a felony gun charge. It was the same Weiss who inked a widely panned sweetheart deal that caused a federal judge to balk it and trash a sweeping immunity grant, language that even the prosecutor admitted had never been seen in a previous plea deal. So there's a list of what I would suggest under many people's definition would be incompetence. Are you saying that that's inadequate for you to have questioned what he was doing?
I'm saying that all of these are allegations. I don't know what the facts of them are. I have, as I've explained, stayed out of this investigation. I was not present at any of the meetings discussed. Some of the meetings occurred under the previous administration where Mr. Weiss was assigned to the matter by the previous Justice Department, and I'm not in a position to comment on them.
That's too bad. Is that there's a scope of investigation memo generally issued when we start these things out. Who issued that scope of investigation memo to Mr. Weiss? Was it done back on when he was originally appointed to take on the Biden case? Is that when the memo was telling him what he was supposed to do was issued? Is there a scope of investigation memo is my question.
There's a scope of investigation with respect to special counsel, and that has been publicly transmitted to the chairman of this Judiciary Committee and the Senate Judiciary Committee.
And who wrote it?
Who wrote that scope?
Yeah. Who decided what should be within the scope of that investigation?
I'm sorry?
Who wrote the memo? Who decided what the scope of that
I decided what should be in the scope. If you'll compare that to the scope of many other special counsels, it basically is modeled on the format that we've used in the past, not only in this administration, but the previous one.
In your remarks delivered on August 11th of this year concerning the appointment of David Weiss as special counsel, you say, upon considering his request, as well as, quote, the extraordinary circumstances relating to this matter, end quote. Can you tell us what those extraordinary circumstances were?
I'm sorry.
Okay, so these are your remarks back on August 11th.
Yes.
And it says, on Tuesday of this week, Mr. Weiss advised me that, I'm just quoting from your memo, this is what he said.
Yes.
In his judgment, his investigation has reached a stage at which he should continue his work as special counsel, and he asked to be so appointed. Upon considering his request, as well as, quote, the extraordinary circumstances related to this matter, end quote, I've concluded it's in the best public interest to appoint him special counsel. What were those extraordinary circumstances you're talking about?
Yeah, look, all of these special counsels, including the appointment by Mr. bar with respect to Mr. Durham uses those phrases. The reason he uses those phrases is because that's in the special counsel regulation. I've said as much as I can say with respect to that without discussing matters relating to a pending investigation. I can't discuss matters with respect to a pending investigation for the reasons I've said.
Thank you. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back